Hello and welcome to the first live event in the Baltic Crypto Adoption Week. This week we will for the first time have 4 live events which are including all the Baltic nations. So we will start today with the live event for Estonia. Tomorrow there will be Lithuania, and on Thursday we will have both for Latvia and also a summary event for the Baltics altogether. And that will also be 2 different events on Thursday. This is also, of course, as an inspiration and also expansion of the Nordic crypto survey and crypto week, crypto adoption week. And we had that before the Easter in the Nordics for Norway, Sweden, Denmark, and Finland, and also a summary for the Nordics. And all the content, recordings, articles with findings, as well as the reports are available both at the K33 website, but also at Kaupr, where we have a special landing page. And the methodology is more or less the same, which then the presenters, Vetle Lunde and Magnus Jones, will tell us. But we will also then start to give a great thank to the partners that have been together on this great initiative. And in the center, it's of course K33, which has been doing this survey since 2018 in Norway, and gradually then expanded to the Nordics and now also into the Baltics. And as you can see, there are a lot of different partners that are together on this event. We will also talk to a couple of them in the start of this event, and I will then wish welcome to Jakob Mikkel Hansen from Nordic Blockchain Association. Welcome, Jakob.
Thank you very much, Morten, and thank you very much for hosting it.
Yes, and maybe we could then start with hearing a little about what is Nordic Blockchain Association.
For sure, Nordic Blockchain Association is the largest blockchain association across the region. We existed for almost 10 years, created by people who have been building something within the industry. We believe that blockchain is a horizontal technology, so not just only trading, as we are covering today. We believe the technology can create transparency, but as well privacy where needed. We represent around this region, around 50 plus different companies. We have 100 plus good partners like you, Morten. And then the way that we operate is we have 3 main areas. One of them is working groups. So we work with our members and the industry to create better infrastructure, everything from regulated initiatives, talking to regulators, public elected, but as well finance, how do we get more finance into the industry? Then we do a lot of meetups and conferences. I can explain a little bit about our conference afterwards, but we do a lot of meetups and a lot of initiatives like this. And then we believe, as the third part, we believe that data and education is extremely important. And that's why we're extremely happy to be part of this. If we need to develop the industry and talk about it, we need to have data points like this. And as mentioned, we do a lot of activities throughout the years, and we kind of really want to make sure that people in the region meet together. So this is our, I would call, flagship, which is our annual conference. We have done 8 now. This is going to be our 8th this year in Stockholm. What we do here is that we collect all our work throughout the years. So all the work done in the steering committee will be presented. We're expecting around 1,200 participants, maybe a little bit more. We're going to have 100 plus speakers. We're going to have 15 side events and roundtable. So this is really a way where the Nordic region can meet and interact in person. But as well, we see a lot of attention from the global scene. So more than 50% of our participants last year was people outside of Scandinavia coming in to meet the industry. So extremely excited about initiative like this, because we believe that we need to have data in the industry if we need to develop.
Yes, just a question to you, Jakob. How do you see the Baltics in relation to the Nordics, both when it comes to the industry associations, events, and also initiatives like this?
Well, I see that when I say the Nordic, I see it as Scandinavian and Baltic. Like from a personal point of view, let's call the new Nordic or old Nordic, right? Like we got a long history, we got a lot of similarities, and even on a government level, we have been working quite closely. So we see it as one big bulk. Of course, since we are located and being quite active in Scandinavia, we know much about this region, but we can really see the Baltic region are really at par and developing. And I think the interesting part about the Baltic region is that they have some things we don't have I'm from Denmark, right? Like they've been really far ahead in some of the digital things. So we just see it as creating a stronger tie between the region would just create a lot stronger ecosystem.
That's really, really great, Jakob, and thank you for that. And maybe we'll also then hear from Raido Saar, which is then working also on the associations in Estonia. And welcome, Raido.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you great. And maybe you can say something about how you see the associations working in the Baltics and the industry and this initiative as well. Mm-hmm.
Yes, first of all, Estonian Cryptocurrency Association was established in 2014. So we claim that this was the first cross-nation crypto association. And we renamed our association in 2021 to be a Web3 chamber because very clearly Estonian government didn't want to do anything with any organization which has crypto in the name. So we named it Web3 and they say, oh, no problem, because there is no money laundering in Web3. We were very happy to comply with that. And since then, yes, as you know, we used to have over 2,000 crypto companies in Estonia, and a lot of them caused a lot of bad reputation for Estonia. And we had a big problem because, I think you remember yourself that when you walked into some biggest crypto event in the world, and first test probably was that buy fully licensed Estonian crypto company for 6,000 euros. Many people did, and thanks to that, all the bad reputation came to Estonia, and no tax money came to Estonia. So we had a very big problem. The problem is solved, but when our authorities started to solve the problem, they basically kicked out the baby with the washing water. Now we still have left 32 crypto company WASPs. And at this point, we have 0 MiCA licensed entities in Estonia. So we have gained from, let's say, crypto paradise to today's situation where, to be honest, government has helped a lot to give a bad name to crypto. And of course, scammers are doing their part. And that has made situation in Estonia, let's say, pretty fragile, and the numbers are showing the same.
Thank you so far, Raido. You will also take part in the panel discussion in about 20-25 minutes. But first, we will then try to find out what is the situation on the ground. And then we will welcome Magnus Jones and Vetle Lunde to the stage. And you will go through the findings of this year's survey and eventually compare it to other surveys that you have. And we will talk later, and the panel will then also join us later to discuss what are the takeaways from this. So take it away, guys.
Great. Let's go straight to it. So it's great to finally expand the survey publicly and include the Baltics. We have ran this survey for 2 years now in Estonia, so we have some data to compare with last year. And it's also interesting to just note the context of what we had in terms of ownership rates in the Nordics. So 11% of the population in the Nordics owned crypto, and then it was quite a lot of variation in terms of what happened to crypto ownership in the Nordics in the past year. Sweden saw a massive increase. Norway saw a small decrease, big decrease in Finland, and a slight increase in Denmark. So in the Nordics, adoption moved in all directions. And now we should move ahead and have a look at Estonia and see what has happened there over the past year. We have done this survey through Norstat. Norstat gives us a representative panel of people from all age groups and all kind of regions and genders in Estonia. We have 1,000 respondents in total across all kind of age groups. These respondents were asked 5 questions. 2 of them were sent to all, and then 3 of them were conditioned. So what we did ask all the respondents was whether or not they own Bitcoin or any other cryptocurrencies. And we also asked all respondents whether or not they believe they will buy crypto in the future. And then depending on whether or not the respondents indicated that they own crypto, we asked 3 questions to the current Estonian crypto owners. We asked them what kind of cryptocurrencies they own, what the value of their cryptocurrency holdings were, and also where they trade cryptocurrencies. We believe that these questions give us insights on both the habits of current Estonian crypto owners and also information on where Estonians tend to seek to trade, and if there are any regional differences in the Baltics and also compared to the Nordics on trading patterns and behaviors. So let's get straight to the data. We found a slight decrease in Estonian crypto ownership in 2026 compared to 2025. So last year, 9.2% of the respondents indicated that they own cryptocurrencies. Now it's declined to 8.7%. This modest decrease is similar to what we saw in Norway, and it's a completely typical and rational decline given how heavy the market has traded over the past 6 months. This is a pattern we have seen any bear market year in the 7 years that we have done the Norwegian survey. When prices fall, ownership rates tend to decline somewhat. So this is completely within what one could expect after such a half year as we have just been through. Most of this report will present ownership data throughout age groups and also gender-wise. But it's also interesting here to spend some time to drill down into other demographic attributes of crypto owners in Estonia. What we find a very clear trend of is that people who live in larger cities, mainly Tallinn, are far more likely to own crypto than people who live in rural areas. We also find that crypto ownership rates tend to follow wealth. So people earning more are far more likely to own crypto than people who earn less. And also we see that it's far more common to own crypto if you have work as an independent consultant and are self-employed than if you are, for instance, unemployed or a pensioner. So we see a wealth effect of people who own crypto, capital effect, and also an employment effect. This decrease in Estonian crypto ownership rates correspond to approximately 95,000 Estonian adults owning crypto, a decrease from 6,000 from last year. Magnus, you're on mute.
There we are. When we look into the age groups, the shape of these graphs seem familiar from other jurisdictions in the Nordics all over the world. Younger generations prefer to own crypto compared to the elderly one. However, what we have seen here is that we have had a slightly increase in the age group of 30 to 39 compared to last year, while actually it has been a decrease in the age group of 18 to 29 in some manner. That can be correlated towards what Vetle said also about when you have a price drop, that affects more or less directly also. However, we should also pay notice to that it's been quite a significant price drop, sorry, not price drop, but drop in the rate of the age group 40 to 49, where we have gone from 10.7% to 7.1%. When it comes to diversity, that's also an interesting part. And we see that male ownership rates are going up from 12.3 to 13.1%. In the Nordics, we had an average of 17.1% of all males owning crypto. So it means on the male side, compared to the Nordics, Estonia is just above Finland, which had 12.6%, while compared to Sweden, for example, they had 20.5%. On the female side, we have seen sadly a decline going from 6.2% ownership, which is actually quite high, which we had last year, down to 4.4% now. The average of the Nordics was 5.2%. So it's below that, and it's actually equal to Denmark, who had exactly the same with 4.4%, while Finland was 3.7%, and Sweden leading the way when we compare to the Nordics with 6.3%. If we break down these percentages numbers of 13% males and a little bit more than 4% female, we estimate that there is approximately 67,000 males in Estonia who owns crypto, while it is 26,000 females. And when we break down these numbers even more to see how they spread among the different age groups, we see that it's a strong domination of younger men who owns crypto, and the path of the curve follows, call it the normal trends that we see. So we also see that the majority of women of crypto owners are in the age group of 18 to 40 years.
And then a question that is giving some insights on whether or not Estonians are positively inclined towards buying crypto in the future. We can find some views on or changes in the perception of crypto in Estonia. So we like to include this question to see whether or not people in the population are at least positive to the idea of owning crypto in the future. What we did find was that last year, 30% of all the respondents in the survey expected to buy crypto within the next decade. This percentage has now fallen to 25%. So we have seen a relatively significant decrease in, call it the crypto perception or the expectation of buying crypto in the future. Again, this is most likely also consequence of the declining market. This question also tends to be very dependent on the general vibe in the crypto market at the time of the survey. And still, while it has declined quite markedly since last year, it is still 1 in 4 Estonians in the survey who indicated that they expect to buy crypto within the next decade. The chart to the left illustrates how many people of the respondents expected to buy within 1 year, 3 years, 5 years, and then 10 years. We do see a decrease in any of these brackets compared to 2025, but yet it's still a relatively high amount of the respondents who expect to buy within the next 3 years. So 7% approximately expects to buy in the next year, and then a further 8% expects to buy within the next 3 years. So this means that 15% of all the respondents, i.e. 15% of the Estonian population in the context of this survey, has stated that they expect to buy crypto within the next 3 years. And then a further 10% in the next 10 years. And then if we look into the expected future crypto ownership per gender, we see that male respondents are a bit more positively inclined to owning crypto in the future than females, although this distribution is relatively equal compared to the current ownership rates. So 28% of all male respondents expect to buy crypto in the future, whereas 22% of the female respondents indicated the same. So this point toward a potentially narrowing gender gap in Estonian crypto ownership in the future. In terms of age groups and their future ownership expectations, we see a very, very clear trend of expected future ownership rates declining as one ages. So the younger you are, the far more likely it is that you expect to buy crypto in the future. And it's almost decreasing in a linear rate, where the oldest respondents here aged 60 to 74 are far less open to the idea of owning crypto in the future. And then if we compare the current crypto owners, people who have already in the survey indicated that they own crypto, and look into whether or not they expect to buy even more crypto in the future, we see a very clear pattern. Nearly 83% of all the current Estonian crypto owners expect to buy more in the future. This is in line with what we found in the surveys in Nordics, and it shows that the most likely future crypto owners, crypto buyers, are the current crypto owners. But also, as many as 20% of the respondents who do not own crypto indicated that they expect to buy crypto in the next decade. So it's quite a lot of current no-coiners in Estonia who expect to buy crypto within the next decade.
And what type of crypto assets do Estonians prefer to hold? Well, not surprisingly, Bitcoin is the preferred one, with close to 60% who prefers to have that one. And this is something we have seen in all of the other Nordic countries also, and which we believe is also something that we could see as, call it, the global trend in itself. Also, not surprisingly, as a close runner-up in some matter with 30%, we have ETH. While we have seen lots of differentiations between the different Nordic countries of what is coming on third place. Here in Estonia, we see that the USDT tether is close to 13%, so stablecoins actually have a pretty strong presence in Estonia. Having said that one, for the ones who is listening in and might be thinking, well, Estonians go to the store and pay by using stablecoins. We don't have the data on that one, but we rather suspect that this is linked towards using the DeFi, the decentralized ecosystem, and rather use it within the mechanisms of crypto, which again can point towards a direction that Estonians are more, call it, on a mature level when it comes to also using more advanced types of crypto rather than sitting just still and holding BTC. And looking into the trading platforms of the preferences of Estonian persons, we see that the foreign ones like Binance with close to 30% are preferred. We also see that Coinbase is one of the foreign ones that is also a strong presence and preferred. However, both Binance and Coinbase, they have had a decline since last year. Binance had 32%, while now 29%, and Coinbase going from 15% to 13%. We also see that Kraken has dropped from 8% to 1%. While OKX has grown by 1%, while also the other international ones here has dropped from as much as 24% last year to 8% this year. Having said that, this is also naturally a small selection of the population. We heard that it's approximately 10% of the Estonian people who owns crypto, and we have asked 1,000 respondents. This means that these are answers from approximately 100 people, and some have also chosen not to reveal it. Hence, the differentiations should not be looked into as one-to-one, as some of these has lost, call it market share, or one-to-one against actual customers within their business activity, but rather just an indication towards what we receive of the ones who has answered and the ones who wants to share where they are trading. Lastly, here we also have the ETPs, the exchange traded products, where you actually buy a stock and a share, and that has an underlying ownership towards normally a Bitcoin or ETH or something like that. And that has dropped in Estonia from 15% last year to 8% this year.
And then drilling into the investment size into crypto of Estonians. What we find is very similar to what we have found in the Nordic countries, that a majority of the crypto owners in Estonia tends to have relatively small amounts invested. So 57.5% of the current Estonian crypto owners has stated that they own crypto for less than 1,000 euros. This is fully in line with what we have seen in the Nordics, and it's a very common distribution. So while a lot of the, or a relatively substantial portion of the population, i.e. 9%, owns crypto, a vast majority of these have small amounts invested. But we also saw a relatively strong concentration of owners owning crypto for 1,000 to 5,000 euros in Estonia. And keep in mind, this question also suffers from the same statistical issues as the exchange question. We ask this question to a subsample of the population. So any kind of extreme outlier results in this survey should, or in these questions, should be interpreted with a grain of salt. However, what it does give us is just a confirmation of how wealth tends to be distributed in crypto. And this is a pattern that has been strikingly similar in all the surveys we have conducted. And then through a very simple approach of basically a back of the envelope approach of estimating the wealth in Estonian crypto owners, we estimate it to currently 237 million euros. This is an estimation method that is very vulnerable to the outlier effects of the largest crypto owners. In this survey, relatively few respondents indicated that they own crypto for more than 10,000 euros, and even also very few people indicated that they own for more than 50,000 euros. So this reduces the estimated combined wealth in Estonia quite substantially. We are doing a method of using multiplying the population within each wealth bracket to the median value of the investment size. So it is inherently vulnerable to what happens in the edges, in the top right of ownership rates. So this figure is probably in this survey a slight underestimation in Estonia, but it's still an interesting context to have that few own a majority of the crypto wealth in Estonia, and most of the crypto owners account for a very small distribution of the combined Estonian crypto wealth.
So to summarize it all, We have estimatedly close to 100,000 people in Estonia who owns crypto assets. That equals to 9% of the adult population. We have a difference between 13% of all Estonian men who owns crypto, while it's 4% females. The estimated total value of wealth, like we just heard, is around 237 million euros. And looking into the crystal ball for the future, we see that we have indications, at least, that approximately by 2036, we could have 25% of the adult population in Estonia owning cryptocurrencies.
Now I'm on. Thank you very much, then, Magnus and Vetle, for interesting numbers. We will go quite soon to the panel, but just one question. This year, there has been ups and downs. I mean, in the Nordics, Sweden has moved ahead, Norway slightly decrease, some other countries more decrease. Of course, the crypto bear market, or whatever we call it, can be part of the explanations. But there's something about Estonia that I'm curious about, what you have some thoughts about. There's none major local exchanges or brokers. And we heard also from Raido that the authorities has been quite critical. That is quite different from, for instance, Norway. Can that be part of the explanation that Estonians lack the drivers into the market from a local perspective? Vetle?
It might be parts of the explanation, but then again, it's Norway and Sweden and Denmark are, call it, relatively unique in European context in having their own independent currency. So the euro is very accessible to trade on the international exchanges. Still, we saw quite a lot of Finnish people using CoinMotion. So it is probably a tendency, at least in Finland, that CoinMotion has helped pulling the message of crypto in Finland, and then making sure people are aware of it, whereas Estonia might have lacked that. And then it's also interesting when we move further into the Baltics to see that other countries where it's far more common to extend licenses to the international exchanges, there are differences that may point in the direction of this current hostility in Estonia being a limiting factor.
Any thoughts on this, Magnus?
Yeah, I agree and see the same things as Vetle mentioned there. And actually, also just to mention, for example, in Denmark, even though we have the same currency or the own currency of not the euro, we have seen also over a long time period that, for example, eToro and other international have had actually a stronger presence compared to the Danish one before Firi moved in there also. Even they have a smaller percentage than Lunar also. So I think it's a combination of different things, like Vetle says here, about the total ecosystem, how you use it, how used you are to use other services like Revolut, who had 15% here, even above Coinbase. Revolut, who normally has call it a strong presence in the Baltics based upon the origin, etc. So I think we need to take these things into consideration, also down to, call it, the banking ecosystem. It has actually the fact of being easier to get, call it, crypto money into some of the Nordic banks compared to here, and then it might be even more easy to just use the foreign ones. And we could also, possibly, we don't have the data, but it's a speculation like we saw with the stable coins, the usage of DeFi ecosystem, that you could call it, get better leverages on actually using them as a native and keep holding your assets there in general, that you are forced to keep them there and not taking it out to a local community and this kind of way, or to a local bank. And in this kind of way, you don't actually need the local ones in such a large scale. So there can be many reasons for them, but as I said, we see a huge differentiation, and I think the main part of this one is like Vetle described.
Yes, we will look more into that when we go to Lithuania tomorrow and Latvia on Thursday, and then we will also make a summary event on the Baltics. So thank you so far then, Vetle and Magnus. And Magnus, you will also be joining the panel in the last part of the panel. So thank you very much so far.
Thank you, Morten.
And then we will go to the Estonia panel, and we have 6 people joining the panel today. So it's a really interesting discussion. It's Raido Sar from Estonia Web Chamber, Silvia Karet from Kraken, Shirley Valge from Satosh, Dijan Davidovic from Kitamat, Sander Gansen from Prexify, and Max Kupashev from CoinsPaid. So we will then add them to the stage one by one, and we will welcome them all. And thank you very much for being part of this interesting discussion. And we have 6 panelists here, so welcome to you all. And I thought that maybe we should start with your takeaways. What do you find most interesting in the survey, in the findings? So maybe we could start with you, Dejan. Or if I'm not phrasing the name correctly, then I hope I'm forgiven.
It's okay. I'm used to it. It's all good. Anyway, looking at the results of the survey, I can say that there is nothing surprising, to be honest, because we are talking about the retail customers, and retail customers are very sensitive to whatever is happening in the macro environment. And they're also very sensitive to trust. So we at Cryptomat, we serve mostly retail customers. 99% of our customer base is retail. And that's why I have quite kind of familiarized myself over the last 8 years in how they react. Looking at the Estonia, I can mainly just comment on the last part that also you discussed previously with Magnus on the overview of the players, where people actually own and buy crypto and so on. It was interesting also to see last year's results, for example, for Sweden, where we saw that over 10% of the market was kind of owned by the national champions, Fellow. And in Estonia, we unfortunately do not have that. And we are not in a position to have that, unfortunately, because the market, also as Raido made in his introduction, has been very kind of unstable. And this instability also then reflects in how the market operates, because we have been quite struggling over the last couple of years, just let's say by saying none of the crypto businesses who operate in retail-oriented businesses cannot work with any of the Estonian banks. And this already creates both friction when people try to transact with an exchange, and as well the lack of trust, because always people need to transact with a bank account either in Lithuania or Liechtenstein or Switzerland and so on. And when talking about retail, not everyone is completely comfortable in doing that, because it's not as natural as it is maybe to all of us here in this panel to transact whatever needed. But with retail, they're really, really sensitive to that. So to summarize, it doesn't surprise me. And hopefully things will be better in the future, but not certain, to be honest.
Okay, the next one, Max.
Yes, hi Martin. So I wanted to comment a bit on the Mika question, right? So of course, many of us were in Estonia from the very beginning, right? We've been since 2019, right? So we evolved together with the regulation, And right now, with the shift from one regulator to another regulator, there are some delays in the MiCA applications, right? Like was already mentioned, right? But we are looking forward to getting one obviously from Estonia, right? And being on the more B2B side of the business, right? So we are not offering any services to the retail customers to buy crypto, sell crypto, NFTs, and so on. So basically, what is important for us in this research, right? That it gives a clear sign to economic activity players, right? That it's clear that men in the age of the top economic activity, they have a highest adoption of owning crypto and stablecoins. Then, as we said, those are people who are usually higher income. And what is more important for me, those are people who are doing some self-employment and contractual jobs, which means that they're actually bringing money to the country, right? So those people are really doing, experts by themselves. So international young people are the ones who are a target audience, right, for our merchants, right, because we are a payment provider. From what we can see from the clients that we have in Estonia, and we have different ones. We have the stores, right, which sell different sort of goods offline, right, in the stores in Tallinn, and we have online. And we can see that from 3 to 5%, depending on the goods that are sold and the types of goods that are sold, 3 to 5% of the volumes are happening in stablecoins. In our industry, of course, we don't say crypto that much because very rarely people really use Bitcoin or Ethereum for the payments to buy goods or services. They mostly use stablecoins. And I want to just to completely agree with Dejan that basically retail market is very much driven by the price. So what we see in 2026 might not be, a clear indication that the market is going down in Estonia, but that in general, the retail market in the world is sort of like, get a bit depressed when their Bitcoins, which they bought for 100K, now worth only 70K, speaking in dollars. So yeah, a great results. I like how it is going. We are building infrastructure. We are sort of like ready to see any results in any markets. But yeah, reality is how it is. And facing the reality is very important, at least for us. Thank you. Big thank you to Vettel and Magnus for organizing that and involving us also to help with this amazing project.
Okay, then we will continue with Sander, your takeaways from the findings.
I think the overall picture is showing that the overall market is kind of in a position where people are not just struggling in crypto, but in most of their investments. And they are thus liquidating their assets to cover general lifestyle, which is completely understandable. And if you look at how the female ownership seems to be going down compared to last year more than the male one, then it again kind of comes together with this risk tolerance side of things. That said, I think overall it's good to see that the numbers actually have been more or less stable, and they haven't drastically reduced on many levels. Although if you look at the valuations they have, and at the same time, I think if we look at the corporate adoption and different types of things that companies are doing with the technology itself, then this side is getting to a much better position with, on the one hand, people are still waiting to see what will happen with the MiCA, because a lot of companies that are potentially regulated are still not with the licenses. And especially in Estonia, we see that it has been taking a little bit longer than we hoped for the regulator to work through the applications. But regardless of that, with the stablecoin infrastructure being much better, with Stripe purchasing this wallet provider Firi earlier in autumn, we see that it's been getting easier for non-crypto companies to start accepting crypto payments and kind of like become more blockchain agnostic or adjacent as well. So I think overall position is good, but yes, the current market dynamics are for sure making it difficult for everyone.
Okay, thank you. We continue with Shirley.
Hi, everyone. So also not a big surprise, like the findings and the future looks bright when we look at the numbers of how many people are seeing holding crypto in the future. I also hope they're aware that they can buy crypto in fractions. So sometimes people are not aware of it and they're kind of like collecting money until they can buy one entire Bitcoin. So from my own perspective, I've been living 7 years in Zug, Switzerland, and now I'm back in Estonia. I launched my own company here, and working with banks, with traditional banks, is a huge bottleneck because they don't want to touch crypto. They don't allow you to do anything in crypto. So basically, even though I would like to leverage on my portfolio and my profits with digital asset investments and trading, I'm unable to do so because the banking doesn't support that. So onboarding is a huge hustle and for sure definitely impacts the adoption rate. The taxation. So taxation is pretty clear on operating within the crypto as a corporate or entity. When it comes to individual taxation, it's another huge hurdle on how to report your trades, and also you're getting taxed on your unsuccessful trades. So some of the countries have adopted zero taxation on digital asset trading. So a lot of learnings or changes needed in Estonia as well on how to make it more clear for individuals. Female ownership, I guess it's correlated with the overall gender gap and difference, which is pretty high in Estonia. Also, I have organized some onboarding sessions or like meetups and work sessions for ladies to get on board, and provided hand-holding to educate with all the theoretic part and physical part, like how to set up crypto wallet or exchange account and how to do your first trade. And the overall perception I've got from women is that it's still like very technical. It's something only for men or like financial experts. So we need to make it more simple and break it down to more easy to understand for women to get on board. Because I mean, it's a great investment class, like asset class in crypto, because you can start from a very small entry capital. That's why I got on board back in 2015. And then overall regulatory uncertainties in Estonia are massive, like compared to 2020, 2019. There's a huge difference how the industry was blossoming back then, but also brought a lot of bad apples. So I think we need to kind of support the ecosystem with better regulation to get back to the level of adoption we had 6 years ago, 7 years ago. But
Okay,
overall,
then
future looks good. Hopefully.
Thank you, Shirley. And we will also want to hear from you, Sylvia.
Yes, hi everybody. So I agree with all the other panelists before, with the numbers not being that surprising. And since I've been working more with communities, I see from regular people's side exactly that is like the stats also said, that people who earn more can invest more, and regular people, just inflation is the highest in Estonia, in Europe, and the salaries are not catching up. So I think this is something that is preventing a lot of regular people to even step into this industry, because you have to worry first how to get food on the table rather than start your investment journey. And I also agree with Shirley regarding the education part. I think we should be more pushing that for regular people as well, who don't just see in the news Bitcoin price or something like this and then be affected by that. Rather, they know what is actually happening with the technology, and they're then more confident in investing as well. So I think, yeah, we've had a lot of talks about MiCA and regulation, but I think we should also more push the education for regular people and communities here in Estonia.
Thank you so far when it comes to the takeaways, and we will then focus on some topics, and one of them is the one that also Raido mentioned in the beginning, opening of the live event, about Estonia going from maybe several thousand vendors to 30 or something, and right now nobody having a MiCA license. And Raido has some difficulties when it comes to hearing and listening, but if you are able to share something, Raido, how can you guys improve this? What is the way going forward to get more people educated, to make the authority educated, and maybe then make more companies than being approved as a MiCA process is moving ahead during towards the summer? Raido? Can you hear me, Raido? No, he cannot hear me. So anybody else that want to dig into this regulation part? What about you, Dejan? As I understand, you are applying for the MiCA license, but you also have business in other countries. So how do you view Estonia compared to other countries?
Maybe Raido can speak now.
Now I heard you. Thank you.
Okay.
All right.
Come on, Raido.
I
Yeah,
didn't
so
hear a question,
what
but
I want to
as
know
you wrote me, my opinion on this, how Estonia would be great again, is that at the moment there is not much we can do, because in our, let's say, crypto industry in Estonia, at the moment we are in the point where regulators are stressed because our competent authority in Estonia was changed from FIU to FSA. It's completely new for FSA. FSA has no experience in working with crypto companies. So for them, this is very big learning curve. And sadly, it happens to be in a moment when MiCA will be fully enforced in European Union from the 1st of July this year. And no company has not yet received a MiCA license yet. So we are in a very edge at this point. Next week, we are going to have a meeting with the new chief of FSA. And we will discuss those issues. But we are clearly not in the very bright place. And sentiment, as it was said before me as well by Dejan and Shirley, is that if something is, let's say, harshly regulated in the national level, the sentiment will be felt by the general public. And people don't want to touch what is not popular, or let's say, if your government is not saying that it's good, it's okay to deal with crypto, then most general populace will not touch it. And that's why I think that we are in this situation. What's going to happen next? My feeling is that we are moving towards over-regulations with such hurry at this point that one moment it will just hit us back. And I don't know if it is too late for Estonia. As most of us, we were in Latvia in Unblock conference last week. We saw that everything is blooming there. And in Estonia, sentiment is very different. So I think we will recover, because so far still Estonia have this digital edge, what you mentioned earlier. But yeah, I hope that we can recover from this, what's happening now.
What do you think then? Again, back to you then, Dejan, because as I understand, you have business in several countries.
Well, we have business only in Estonia, and we run business only from Estonia, although we do operate in many other countries, but this is from Estonia only. I can add to what Raida said. Unfortunately, the situation is as is. It's not entirely the industry's fault. It is partially, but we have mentioned a couple of times the example of Latvia, and this is an example where you can actually feel that the entire country is kind of aligned on the strategic level of what it is that they're trying to achieve. So Latvia has decided to position themselves as let's say, a fintech hub and trying to attract both entrepreneurs and investors into their country so they can build. And they are all speaking the same language, from the FIU to the National Bank and to the politics. This is something that they have decided. In Estonia, I think we're still seeing sort of a purge when it comes to crypto. The sentiment is still negative. I have just recently hosted a panel on an event that was full of compliance and AML professionals, more than 300 people there. And one of the surveys that I've asked of the crowd is whether they think that a company from Estonia that will have a MiCA license, will they kind of consider this company to be an equal part in the financial system of Estonia? So more than 60% of people in that event answered no, that we are not to be seen as equal part. The other 20% answered that we are still too risky, and then only 25 answered that yes, we are an equal part. So this kind of shows how the narrative, the general narrative among professionals is, and then this of course reflects further down the road to the retail. I'm not sure what is going to be the outcome of this. Unfortunately, currently looks very depressive. But yeah, time will tell. Time heals everything. So we'll also see what happens here. And that's all I can add to what Raida said.
Okay, maybe we should go to you, Shirley, because as I understand, you are not only working in Estonia, and you're also then working on a more international stage. And you're also thinking about relaunching some kinds of community events in Estonia. Is that the way to go forward?
I hope so. I mean, Sander, one of our panelists, has done a great job of hosting really big Web3 conferences for several years. Unfortunately, they had to stop. So now we see those events taking place in smaller format. So yeah, this spring first time in the history of Estonia, we got to bring MetaMask and Consensus, which are really big players in Web3 industry, to host an event in Tallinn. And we just decided to change the format from a smaller meetup into a larger event, aligning the Latitude, which is a big startup conference happening like annually, bringing a lot of foreign players to the country. But coming back to the topic of adoption, like as I mentioned earlier, I've been building up my career in Switzerland since 2017, and it was really blooming, like Zug, the crypto valley in Europe, which has really established itself as the Web3 industry hub in Europe, providing like great framework for token treasuries and non-profit foundations. So most of the Ethereum, like blockchain protocol foundations, are based out of there because of the friendly framework. But I mean, throughout being based out of there, I saw also companies moving away, especially during COVID and last year's. A lot of these industry players moved over to Dubai, because yeah, you can't help against the over-regulation in Europe. It's become a nightmare. So all the bigger companies are looking for friendlier regulations and friendlier frameworks and jurisdictions. So it's not a problem only in politics and in Estonia, it's even in countries like Switzerland and outside EU.
Okay, I'm just thinking, I think about 3 years ago, there was a large crypto event in Norway where also an earlier prime minister from Estonia was there at the panel talking about digital citizens in Estonia, building the foundation of an innovative country. Is this reputation of Estonia being ruined because you are not able, because the authorities or politicians or whoever are not able to follow up? What do you think, Silvia?
That's a good question, because last week we just had a conversation in Latvia with some of the Latvians who brought out that Estonia actually has a great reputation, and everybody knows Estonia being a very digital country and way ahead from everyone else, rather maybe Latvians or Lithuanians. So Estonia globally has that like reputation, and people kind of thinking us in that way that we're very ahead. But I think that the numbers and the real situation is a bit different. Now, I think it depends on how long this image of us can be sustained before the reality catches up of how the situation really is. And that, like, to see in Riga how the unblock went and the huge event and all these, and if it's possible for us to really catch up and then deserve the name or the advertisement we've gotten from the digital nation as we are.
Yeah, what do you think about this, Sander? Because several of you guys have been to Latvia to the Unblock conference, and as I understand, it was 2,200 people. That not anywhere in the Nordics there are a crypto Web3 conference with that type of numbers. So, what do you think about the authorities, the reputation of Estonia, or the communities in Estonia, Sander?
Yeah, when it comes to any of the events that we have done in Estonia in past, then our attendees generally have always been coming from outside of Estonia. So like 60 up to 80% of all the attendees have come from countries outside of Estonia. Out of there, like over 50 outside of Baltics and Scandinavia, meaning that international people are still viewing Estonia as a great location. And I'm quite sure it's not because of the weather, but there are other parts which are nice. And on that note, it is good to see that there are some trends outside of the Web3, but inside Europe, which are kind of also supporting the Estonian business case, or kind of becoming a better hub. Same goes for Latvia and Lithuania, is that now that there's this 26th regime coming in, which basically means that you can also set up a company in any of the countries and operate across Europe, which is something that the European Commission has been pushing. Then it again comes to the question, which countries are the easiest to operate from? And again, Estonia for years has had a great tool set for that, where setting up the company, operating it, etc., is already easy. And once you make it possible to run it across Europe from here, it can be a good jump. That said, only if we manage to solve the question of crypto licenses part, or MiCA licenses part. So I do wish the best for the FSA to get this process sorted, because if they do not, then others will overtake the other trumps that we have from us. But if they do, then there is a chance that we shall prosper, as yes, people do still view Estonia in a good lighting.
Just a parenthesis, because we have also had this results from the other Nordic countries, and for instance, Sweden grew a lot this year, even if they have a lot of crypto companies that don't have a local bank, and even if the local FSA more or less put out warnings towards crypto every second month or something. So maybe in that regard, the innovation culture of Sweden and the finance market is the ones that are moving the needle at the moment. Just a parenthesis. Shirley, you wanted to comment on this topic.
Yeah, I mean, we're still like one of the leaders in digital governance, and I met so many people all over the world that have an e-residency, but their number one problem was banking, like getting the banking to their entity being operating remotely. So that's a very important piece of a puzzle that needs to be solved. And as Sander mentioned, EU Inc. is coming, and that, I mean, Estonia has a zero corporate tax, which is a huge advantage over other jurisdictions. So I really hope we can get the licensing procedures super seamless and streamlined, as well as the banking access situation, which would be, like, put Estonia as number one or top 3 jurisdictions to set up a company. So yeah, these needs to be solved first.
Again, it's important to underline that the questions that and the people that have been surveyed is 1,000 private persons, is not businesses. So what about then the business opportunities? Again, if you read news regularly on what is happening in the European Union and also in the States, we are talking about tokenization of real world assets more or less every minute, and the same with stable coins and other type of payment solution. I even think I have read that Lightspark, a Bitcoin Lightning vendor, also bought a company from Estonia. So what is the business environment and what is happening on the payment side? I think that you guys are working on that, Max.
Yeah, just wanted to comment quickly also on the previous topic, right? So speaking about running a company from Estonia and digital residencies and so on. So, right, if we speak about financial markets, right, then regulators, they don't really like that much if the company is being run from the outside, right? So non-regulated companies in Estonia doing this makes sense, right? Regulated companies like MiCA license and so on, the first question we get from the regulator and so on, what's the substance? How many people do you have in the office? Right, and so that is where it's great to have this digitalization, right? That you can submit your reports, speak with the regulator this digital way, and so on. We don't really send a paper mail in Estonia, right? Which is amazing, I think. After many years living in Germany, it's magical not to send paper mail. Speaking about businesses, right? So that is where of course MiCA is important, because it's a pan-European license, right? So us being in Estonia doesn't mean that we concentrate only on Estonian market, right? Because Estonian market itself, honestly, is relatively small, right? If you compare to Germany, France, and Spain, I mean, this is extremely small, even compared to the whole Nordics. So what is amazing about Estonian businesses, right? That they are they know the market very well, they know their customers very well, right? And the case that the business community in Estonia is small, and I'm trying to look for the positive things here. It's easy; they are easy approachable, right? You can speak with the owners of the stores, of the e-commerce platforms, and so on. That is where it's really amazing. But when the e-commerce store based in Estonia, selling in Estonia, let's be honest, they don't need payments and stablecoins, really, right? We are stretching here, a bit like, okay, let's have an MVP, let's have a test, right? That I'm saying from 3 to 5% really happening in payments and crypto in Estonia from Estonians, right? This is a small number, but it's still the number. If you speak about companies, international ones, right, which might be based in Germany and selling to the whole world, right, or who buy stuff from Asia, right? They need to buy they have some suppliers in Asia, they have some production, I don't know, in India, Bangladesh, and so on. That is where they need to do international transfers. And that is where for them, it might make sense to sell with stablecoins to their international customers, but also use the same stablecoins to pay their suppliers, which are also international. And that is where crypto works much better than SWIFT. I don't know if any of you were involved in international business, and do you know what is SWIFT for non-conventional businesses where the sender has intermediary and the correspondent, the receiver has intermediary and correspondent, and then no one can locate the payment. You just send it somewhere, and in 1 week you start asking questions. So where's the money? And no one knows. And then the receiver is looking at it for another week, then you looking at it for another week, and then 1 month, and the business is not going, right? Economic activity is frozen, right? While you all looking for the money. So with the stable coins, this is solved pretty much within, I don't know, up to 20 seconds, right? This is if you're using, I don't know, Ethereum, which is 12-second confirmation, and you wait for 24 seconds. 24 seconds and your stable coins have arrived. And you have Blockchain Explorer, right? Where you can prove that this is there. So there are plenty of business models, right? Plenty of business challenges. I'm not saying that stable coins are solving everything. But anyways, our goal is like to expand, as I'm saying, a lot about infrastructure. So launching MVPs, proof of concepts, and so on in Estonia is my favorite place to do, right? But then, of course, scaling and becoming, a big global player on the market. That is where you need to go, out. Obviously, we have a company and licenses in US. We have a company and licenses in Canada, right? So we are doing this globally as well. But for Europe, our let's say headquarters is Estonia, definitely.
Okay, then we will invite Magnus again to join the panel. And the open question, does the comment, the debate in the panel resonate with what you thought, or are there any surprises?
No, absolutely. Also from working for many years close with not only the Estonian but the Baltic market, there are no surprises in so matter. And I think in general, we have to also take into concern, call it the volatility, or call it the natural volatility that is surrounded when you are talking about emerging technologies in general, whatever it is. And I think it's more important to call it zoom out on the big perspective of what all of, just by this example, all of these players are working on and doing and building, because nothing is happening overnight. It's at so many different variations. It's affecting so many different companies. It's so many different use cases, and there are, call it the same hurdles that we are all not necessarily fighting against, but we have at least some challenges against, regardless of how you twist and bend. So I would rather enhance and leave it on, call it the positive notice that we're seeing on a moving trend. Natural volatility is there. We have to collaborate close together. That is what we have seen now, just from take the other example, like has been mentioned here recently now in Riga, where we met lots of great both Baltic and Nordic actors, collaborating together, also having the discussions with the authorities and seeing that they understand more and more of this one, that I could actually have a sensible, deep down discussion with the Minister of Finance from Latvia, which I shared a panel on during the Unblock conference. That gives me much more, call it, trust and concern in the totality, and that they will wake up and understand what, the infrastructure, for example, that Max is building is something that is not tangible directly to people if you are not in there to see and understand how business transactions will be commenced. Like I said, stablecoins will come in as a natural element. However, it will not come in overnight. This is where Dejan comes in also on call it the B2B side of things also, where it makes sense in a totally different backend structure way. What Sander is building, for example, also on infrastructure, going from, as mentioned, a great conference, the Banana Conf, of building and gathering together builders from all over the world, and world leading builders like, say, Willem Entrekking, who has invented the basis of the infrastructure that we are talking about using for the privacy reasons that the project Shirley has been involved in, for example, and so on. And similar to Silvia, who's working now also on the digital identity side of things, like Rido is also building. So there's so many of these things that are connected towards each other, that we don't see by seeing ourselves a little blindly towards whether or not it's 1% up and down on consumer adoption or what the price of Bitcoin is, but rather of the infrastructure we're all building together. And I think that's the important takeaway of the good leverage and the momentum that is actually happening on the back-end side in Estonia and then the Baltics in general.
Then we will have about 15 minutes left, and I thought that we then will try to sum it up and give you guys the possibility to think ahead. What can happen the next year? What are your hopes for the next adoption survey, for instance, in 1 year from now? And maybe I can also just share some realistic or optimistic thoughts, for instance, from Ewald. He thinks that maybe 70% of companies will be closed by 2027, but he also thinks that we have to wait for results 3 to 9 months when the industry is playing it out in the next months. And he even also thinks that there could be a massive adoption in Q3. I don't know, not quite know where he has his documentation or insights based on. But again, guys, what do you think about the future? For instance, the first hurdle, creating the MiCA license in the summer, and then for the further adoption for the next year. We could start with you again, Dejan.
Yeah, sure. Well, absolutely, the first filter is going to happen now in a couple of months, and that's inevitable. It's going to be a hard stop for many companies. Many companies that also have big amounts of customers and do not have a plan B in sense of having a MiCA application in some other jurisdiction, those companies will be forced to wind down their operations, because it also takes time to do it if you want to do it properly. So yeah, it's going to be a big filter. However, what happens later, I'm expecting, and it's also, I think it's natural, kind of a consolidation on the markets, whether bigger players, bigger international players will come for the smaller ones, or the traditional financial players will try to innovate by partnering up with smaller companies. I'm not one way or another. I think that business will always find its way. It will adjust, and it's. I think we're gonna be seeing kind of a natural outcome of this. In the Estonia itself, what is kind of what I'm hoping for, but I'm not that kind of optimistic, is that it's getting harder and harder to introduce any sort of innovation in the financial space and in the crypto space as well, because it's very hard to even start a company, because whatever you try to do is quickly considered to be a licensed activity, and without a license, it's hard to even test it. And getting a license, I can speak from personal experience, is quite a hustle, and it's a very hard thing, especially if you're starting from scratch. So that's why I'm kind of not that optimistic on the innovation part in the fintech and the crypto space in general. But yeah, time will tell how this will evolve.
How do you then, Max, look at the future in 3-4 months ahead, and then maybe for the next year?
Yeah, agree with Dejan about the innovation. I think it's a problem of all highly regulated industries, right? You know that USA only introduced the tap to pay, right? When we pay with the phones, right? Which is for Europe, it's been there for 15 years or 10 years. I know in Germany maybe 7 years. In US, it only started with the COVID, right? So there are some lags, you know, if you are more regulated, like the adoption anyway is happening differently in some countries. Even the PayPal, they have crypto. In US, you can pay with PayPal with stable coins. In Europe, not. So I do agree that some innovations, right, and some features in Europe are more of a hard sell because of the regulation. What will happen in Europe with MiCA? I think it's clear, right? We will have the players who have MiCA, and those players who are, trying to operate in Europe from outside of Europe. How much legal or wide it will be, I cannot judge, right? But what Dejan is saying, that they will be finding a way, I think it might be happening. But what is for sure clear, that a smaller entrepreneur will not be able to launch European crypto business anymore, right? It will require quite a lot of capital. It will require a team from the start, right? So if you could have done it 5 years ago with, like, I don't know, having 100,000 or 200,000, to start some business, and start some monetization and revenue. Right now, it requires, I think, close to 1 million. And some of this money might be spent, just for regulatory requirements, but not so much of the money makers and business drivers, right? So, I mean, for example, having MLRO or compliance officer in the business with 0 transactions probably doesn't make a lot of business sense. But anyways, this is how it's going. I cannot judge. Maybe it's how it has to go, right? Because this is the highly regulated industry, and there is not a place, for the smaller entrepreneurs experimenting in this industry, at least how it is going in the US and in Europe.
What about you then, Shirley? You are right now also located in Switzerland, which has its own legal environments independently of MiCA. And how do you view the way going forward for the next month and the next year?
Well, Estonia had already one phase of strengthening regulation in the crypto and fintech sector, where all of the companies got their existing licenses revoked, and they had to comply with new regulation that was much more strict, and the auditor firms couldn't provide competent services for them to actually comply. So the easiest way was to just move over to another jurisdiction, which in this case was mostly Lithuania, where you can still buy like an existing shell company with licenses. So I don't know how it's going to work. I hope the companies will not die and close shops, but they will find a way to operate within another jurisdiction, whether it's Europe or Dubai. Like, Dubai is also extremely unstable now. But yeah, I'm very interested, like, looking at the space. But I mean, technology is here to stay. It's getting more mainstream. We're not talking about it in a way that it's a crypto, but it will become like a layer of a solution or use case. So like RWA, like real world asset tokenization, which will require like a blockchain infrastructure, a wallet, but it will be all built in a way which will become invisible for the end user and for the mainstream audience. So I'm definitely sure innovation is still continuing as usual.
Okay, then to you, Sandra, and you can pick your topic if you want to talk about the retail or the business or the community, but look forward, please.
Yeah, continuing on what just Shirley brought out, that we do see the trend of the whole technology becoming more invisible to the end users. And this is something that we have now been doing in the last 3 months, where we have given hundreds of people wallets without them knowing that they have wallets in some e-commerce stores that we have been launching on our stack. And for now, they don't even have to know. But we will soon implement stablecoins there for them to be transacting between each other on the platforms, so we can avoid having to pay the credit card percentage back and forth every time. And again, they might not even know anything about the crypto behind there. They might just know that they have a balance which they are using. And this is a trend that is going further and further in different verticals, where exactly like Max said, that if you're using Swift, you might lose the money for week's end, but if you're using stablecoin sites, things are happening within less than minutes. And this is something which is happening more and more. We see the same trend also continuing with the rise of the agentic world, where agents themselves are getting wallets and transacting between each other using different types of tokens. So overall, I think things that we were still dreaming of in the early 2020s are finally coming here. And from that side, I agree with the comment that you were bringing out earlier from Evald, that in the third quarter, there might be a explosion in adoption without people necessarily knowing that they're actually using it. But we're just going to see that the numbers are going up on different platforms.
But one follow-up question to you then, Sander, because if nobody knows it, not even politicians know it, not even regulators know it. So then maybe we'll have the new financial system because they don't understand what is happening.
No, they do know it. And like it is not that people are hiding it completely. It's just that the end user does not need to know the whole process. They don't need to know what's happening inside the sandwich. The regulators will still come after you and see that everything is set up properly. But it needs to be as simple as possible for the retailer.
Totally agree. Then to you, Silva, maybe I also could, you have two roles. You are here for Kraken, but you're also working in the Estonia Web3 Chamber. And in Sweden, they have now, the Blockchain Sweden, they have a grant from the Research Innovation Vinnova organization to learn about the blockchain use cases in Sweden, helping the industry, helping authorities and whatever. To get help in advisement, but also to show the use cases. And is that the way to go forward, so that that people would know that this is not criminal, it's use cases, it's regular business, it's a rebuilding of the financial system?
Yes, I definitely agree. This is the way forward. We've done some similar things in schools as well to educate younger people about this new financial solution and technology coming into our everyday life. So I think definitely finding the options to get grants is one way where we should be focusing on. And related to what I really liked, what Max pointed out about for regular or like smaller companies, for them to now stay on the market, it's going to be very hard. So strongest will survive, but I think in this case it will be the ones who have the most money and who are capable to pay for everything to get the licenses and the regulation and everything top notch. So definitely interesting to see how everything will evolve. I have some hopes, but I think it's a lot dependent on what the regulators and the government is going to do, and how strict eventually everything's going to be. And that also will affect, will we see other companies coming to Estonia, etc.
Then to you, Magnus, for sort of a wrap up in the end. Does this debate also sort of underline the importance of exchanging insight and use cases and hurdles and opportunities across the Nordics, across the Baltics?
Absolutely. And, we would never have been in the world today where we are talking about the infrastructure that we are talking about, and not only talking about, but actually doing. When you're seeing MasterCard acquiring stablecoin companies recently and moving in this direction, and without, call it the building culture and doing this one from the very early days of where Sander and the others have brought together the innovators, we would have never had this infrastructure in place. However, like said, this is not going to be And I think this is the misconception that is all over there, regardless if you're a politician or an average Joe Jolene or you're an average journalist, that you tend to still want to see the case, when am I going to buy a Bitcoin and go to 7-Eleven and buy a Coca-Cola? That's sort of the classic case. And that's not the volumes that we are talking about. The volumes we are talking about, like Sander mentioned and Jean and Max knows very well, that's the volumes on the back-end side that comes in the international infrastructure. However, dealing with that, it's not that simple that we can just send something peer-to-peer directly because of legislation, because of different jurisdictions. That's why we still need the native, call it regional actors, to be there, to play in there. And that's why there's a role for so many others. So all of these things are going to, call it, happen now on, call it, the back end side, the backroom side, where you don't hear or feel, like Sander explained, his bookstore, you just use it, you integrate it, just like Lufthansa had started with as one example, but even now more in practice. So I'm not, if you look into the 3 months perspective, I'm not that optimistic that the whole world will change within 3 months. I'm very optimistic that it will change over time, but I think we need more than 3 months to see the moment. And also, having said and commented on naturally the side that we will see smaller actors fall away. Yes, that can happen. And we have already seen, like you have seen on some of your broadcasts, Morten, where we have seen Swedish actors reaching out and say, hey, we're open for, call it, a marriage or an M&A because of, call it, all the compliance pressure that comes there. And that's down to that we're using this technology for, call it, the real economy. That's what people are missing out on. And these hurdles, they don't come for free. And this is some of, call it, the biggest challenges. And this is why I believe that, unfortunately, we will see several actors fall away. But I think also we will see more and more, call it, mergers come together. And that it's only one way forward, because tokenization in general will be and are becoming a key infrastructure to the financial ecosystem and the railways of the future of finance.
Thank you very much then, and we then will focusing on the next step. We thank the panelists very, very much for this interesting discussion. And this live event will be available as a recording, both on LinkedIn, on YouTube, and also on a special landing page on Kaupr side webpage. And there will be moving forward with the next live events. Tomorrow there will be an event for the Lithuanian community where we follow up in the same way with the results, and we have a local panel discussion. And on Thursday there will be 2 events with different links, just to be aware. One for then the local live event of Latvia, and then there will be a summary discussion for the Baltics. And there are more or less 200 people that have us registered for the Nordic one, for the Baltics one. So that is interesting. So thank you very much for this live event, and we will then end the stream. Thank you very much.